our works, are they even conversations anymore? Or are they bullets fired from the guns of our self-righteousness, of our stubbornness? Many of us don't talk, we scream. We scream at each other not to communicate, not to understand, but to drown each other out, to silence the voice that dares to challenge our own. Many of us have forgotten the art of dialogue, of discourse. We've replaced it with a toxic dance of monologues, a chaos where everyone is talking, everyone is yelling. But is anyone actually listening? We've weaponized the language, twisted it into a tool of division, of discord, rather than a bridge of understanding. This is not communication. It's a battleground, a pit where ideas aren't explored, but they're slaughtered. We've traded empathy for animosity, curiosity for contempt. Many of us have lost the ability to have a respectful conversation. What happened to us? When did we become these shouting shadows, these stubborn echoes in an endless loop of disagreement? When did we stop trying to understand and start living to oppose? There's a different way, a better way. It's called dialogue. It's called conversation. It's about seeking to understand before seeking to be understood. It's about opening our minds before opening our mouths. It's about asking questions, about listening, really listening to the answers. I'm going to get into the steps to conduct street epistemology, but before that, I'm just going to say a few words about myself. So, I'm Watkins. Welcome to the Street Epistemology Workshop. I've been doing street epistemology since late 2019. I have a tiny YouTube channel where I post my conversations and other SE-related content. Street epistemology is a method of having a respectful and non-confrontational conversation with people about their beliefs, with the goal of helping them examine and reflect on the reliability of the methods they use to arrive at their conclusions. This technique involves asking open-ended questions, listening attentively to the responses, and using follow-up questions to encourage critical thinking and self-reflection. Street epistemology can be used to discuss a wide range of topics, including religion, politics, science, societal issues, or any belief a person can hold. When having a conversation using street epistemology, the goal is to have your conversation partner reflect on the quality of the reasons for their belief. This confidence may increase or decrease. Does anyone know why someone would want to do this? Any thoughts on that? Yes.
To change minds.
To change minds, that could be a goal. What else?
Open up a dialogue.
Open up a dialogue. What else?
Discover truth.
Discover truth. Yes. For yourself or who you're talking to?
Doesn't matter.
Both. Okay. Yes.
Open up echo chambers and
Okay.
just depolarize.
Depolarize. Understand each other? Is that what I'm hearing?
Understand each other better, but also prevent the trend of moving into more extreme directions.
Okay.
Yeah, and mutual understanding.
Mutual understanding. Gotcha. All great answers. Once they examine the quality of the reasons of their belief, they may want to adjust their confidence in the belief to match the quality of the reasons for their belief. Before we dive into the components of SE and how to do SE, I'd like to share a different example that I believe can be useful. In 2020, I encountered a situation that deeply influenced my understanding of effective communication. I've changed some of the details in here, but just for privacy concerns here. But essentially the story is, it's the same. I was having a conversation with my friend named Alex about a belief they held strongly. The idea is that natural remedies are always better than modern medicine. Initially, I thought presenting scientific evidence and debunking myths would be the best approach to help Alex reconsider this belief. I spent hours researching and prepared a list of studies and articles to share. When we finally had the conversation, I eagerly presented my findings. To my surprise, Alex became defensive and more entrenched in their existing belief. I felt attacked and dismissed, and our conversation quickly turned into a heated argument. Despite my well-intended efforts, my approach had the opposite effect in which I intended. Reflecting on this experience, I realized that Simply presenting evidence or debunking myths wasn't actually effective. What was missing was a genuine curiosity and empathy. I needed a different way to engage Alex in a meaningful dialogue. This realization led me to discover street epistemology. Street epistemology focuses on asking open-ended questions and listening attentively. It's about helping people reflect on their beliefs rather than challenging them directly. With Alex, I started asking questions like, what experiences have you led to prefer natural remedies? And how did you determine which remedies are effective? This approach encouraged Alex to critically reflect on the reasons without feeling attacked. By focusing on understanding and exploring the reasons behind Alex's belief, our conversations became more productive and respectful. Alex began to question their assumptions and consider new perspectives. This experience taught me the value of street epistemology in fostering open and constructive dialogues. And now we'll go into the steps to conduct street epistemology. First step is rapport. One of the most important things in street epistemology is to establish and maintain rapport. If rapport is lost, the conversation loses all productivity. Allow me to revisit my conversation with Alex. Rapport broke down completely the moment the discussion got heated. Even if Alex had presented me the most compelling evidence and rationale for this belief in natural remedies over modern medicine, I wouldn't have accepted it. There's not a chance in the world that I would have been able to accept it. And you know why? I felt hurt. I was defensive. I was confused. Why is this getting so heated? Why is this getting out of control? I was not in a position to even hear Alex. I could no longer hear him. I might as well have been deaf. I emotionally shut down. This reaction isn't unique to me. It's a common human response. When rapport is broken, the effectiveness of any conversation is dismissed. The best way to establish and maintain rapport is to be human. Be kind, be attentive, be your genuine self. Show genuine interest in the conversation and listen to what is being said. Try to deeply understand what your interlocutor is saying and what they mean. Be charitable. If there's a single thing I would like you to take away from this workshop, it's this. Treat your conversation like the human being that they are. When practicing SE, don't say anything that isn't genuine. Your interlocutor will likely know that you're not sincere anyway. If you walk away from this, remember one thing. Treat your conversation partner as a human. Next step is obtaining consent. Street epistemology is centered around obtaining consent, ensuring that your conversation partner is comfortable and prepared for a potentially challenging conversation. These can be really difficult conversations sometimes. By seeking their consent, you demonstrate respect for their personal boundaries and emotional well-being. This contributes to a more positive and meaningful exchange. This approach also helps avoid putting your conversation partner in a defensive position. You've asked their permission. You're building rapport by doing this. In essence, obtaining permission is a crucial step in creating a safe and respectful environment where both parties can engage in a constructive and a thought-provoking discussion. How do you obtain consent? So there's one way you can explain what street epistemology is, and then allow them to ask questions if they don't understand what you're talking about. And I don't usually do that method. Okay. And the reason being is you say street epistemology and you kind of get deer in the headlights. They look at you like, street who? Street what? I don't know what you're talking about. And they might walk away, honestly. So what I do is I explain what I'm doing without using that term. I say, hey, you can ask them if you want to talk to them about a deeply held belief of theirs, and you're going to ask about, the reliability of the reasons. It's really simple as that. And consent is important because your conversation may not have a desire to have such a conversation. Asking up front will help you determine if you should proceed, and it sets expectations for them. They know what to expect. It can be wise to periodically recheck in on the conversation, like if you're halfway through the conversation and it looks like they're going to cry,
you might not want to proceed, right? What we really do want to be careful of these things. You want to check in on them. You want to make sure they're doing okay. 'Cause you want to treat them like the human being that they are, right? To the next step, choosing the topic. Once you have established rapport and obtained consent, the next step in street epistemology is to choose the topic. The topic should be a deeply held belief that your conversation partner is willing to discuss and examine critically, or it can be more of a casual belief. This is if this is someone you already have an existing relationship with, you might know what that belief is, and you may want to talk to them about it or wait for an opportunity where they're already talking about said belief. And you don't have to really be the initiator, like I was kind of saying, like you can just wait for them to start talking to you about this and then say, hey, you want to have a deeper conversation about this and explain what you want to do. You don't literally have to be out on the street like the name suggests. It can be in your living room with your mom, right? That's really kind of what this is all about. It's about having better conversations, building relationships. And what a better person to do that than your mom? Clarification of the belief. Clarifying the belief ensures both parties have a shared understanding of the belief in question. If you have a differing understandings of what the belief is, you're going to talk past each other. One of the best ways to clarify the belief is to restate the belief in your own words. So if your conversation partner says, yeah, I got this good luck charm, and it's, it brings me good luck. Good things happen all the time. You may want to put it in your own words. So what I understand is you believe this necklace is a good luck charm and has brought you good fortune every day you have worn it. And then you might say, yeah, you totally got it right. Or they might be like, no, that's not what I said at all. And then you can say, okay, what did you mean? Sometimes simply restating the belief in your own words can cause your conversation partner to already start reflecting. Just hearing somebody else say it can be a really powerful thing. Ask for definitions for any words that you often define differently. I wouldn't say, hey, can you define that? That sounds a little bit like a debate. This is not a debate. I would ask, I'm not sure I really understand what you mean by that. Can you explain what that means? And for example, if the claim is all children should respect their parents, if that's what they tell you, you may want to ask what they mean by respect. Do they mean all children should obey all orders by their parents? All children should not critique their parents? Or does it mean that children should only be kind to their parents? It really could mean any of those things depending on what your conversation partner means. Finding the confidence level. Now, this is something that's a little bit interesting that we in the street epistemology community discuss quite often, actually. And it's something that isn't 100% necessary. Okay. To determine your conversation partner's confidence level of their claim, establishing this baseline allows you to gauge their current level of confidence, and then allows you to ask later on in the conversation, see if it went up, see if it went down, see what's going on there, right? Additionally, discussing the confidence level can help your interlocutor reflect on the strength of their belief, and it also kind of leads directly into, the reasons. If you do want to use this confidence level, you can use a scale. So, for example, you might say, to better understand how strongly you hold this belief, would you be comfortable assigning a number from 0 to 100, where 0 represents no confidence at all, and 100 represents absolute certainty? But you have to be careful with this. It's very important to calibrate the scale. Somebody could say 100%, right? What the heck does that mean? No, seriously, somebody could say 100%, and another person could say 100%, and they could mean completely different things. Like person A could mean, there's nothing that could change my mind. My mind's set up. I could view all the evidence, all the things, review everything. It doesn't matter. I'm the mind set up. The other person could be, yeah, that's just what I know. I absolutely know it, but hey, I'm willing to change my mind. So it's really important to calibrate that and kind of understand where they're coming from. Personally, I don't like to use the scale. If you go to SEI.com, you look up their cheat sheets, they'll say use the scale. So I'm kind of obligated to say use the scale. But I don't use the scale. So I like to ask open-ended question format. I'll say, how confident are you that this is the case? And let them explain in their own words. Then I kind of know what they mean. I can repeat back what they're saying, make sure I understand, make sure we're on the same page. I feel like numbers sometimes can get in the way, but I see the utility there. I see the usefulness. If you want to use numbers, use numbers. Next step. Reasons for belief, the why question. So this is really the meat of street epistemology, of the conversation. By asking why questions, you can help your conversation partner dive deeper into the foundations of the belief, uncovering the potential evidence, experiences, thought processes that contribute to the confidence and in some cases maybe lack thereof. Begin by asking broad, open-ended questions that encourage your conversation partner to reflect on the reasons for holding their belief. Examples of such questions can include, what makes you believe this is the case? Can you share the main reason that have led you to this level of confidence? Approach the conversation with genuine curiosity, seeking to understand your conversation partner's perspective rather than refuting the reasons. It's not a debate. This mindset helps maintain rapport and fosters a more open and honest exchange of ideas. Pay close to your conversation partner's response and demonstrate active listening by paraphrasing their statements, asking clarifying questions, and providing verbal and nonverbal cues that show you're still listening and that you're engaged. This will encourage them to share more about their thought process and what got them to their belief. As your conversation partner shares the reasons, ask follow-up questions that dive further into their underlying assumptions or evidence or experiences, whatever it is that they tell you. Give them time and space they need to articulate the reasons and explore their thoughts. Avoid interrupting them or rushing them. This can create tension and hinder rapport. And what if the why is another claim? I have that on the slide. Is this the next slide? Yeah, it's the next one. Okay. Ask your conversation partner if they'd be comfortable discussing the underlying claim and proceed. It's just kind of like a reset. That's kind of how I treat it. But I do kind of ask for consent again, just to double check. And what if there are multiple reasons why? There often is. Sometimes people will give a reason initially, and then there'll be another reason. And sometimes the second reason they give is actually more important or gets them to their level of confidence more than the first reason that they state. So ask your conversation partner which reason is most important and concentrate on that particular reason. If they're unsure, ask them, would you still believe this belief if this reason wasn't available? So let's say that they came to this belief and there was a study, but then also they said, well, it just feels true. If the study wasn't available, would you still believe in this belief? And if they say, yeah, I'd still believe it without the study, probably shouldn't talk about the study. That's not what got them to their belief. It might be how they feel about it. All right, examining the reliability of the methods, reasons for belief. I said the other part was the meat, but maybe this is really the meat of the conversation. After uncovering the reasons behind your conversation partner's confidence in their belief, the next step in the SE conversation is to examine the reliability of these methods and or reasons, whatever they might have said. Socratic questions is kind of like the first. Well, you don't have to do all of these, by the way. I'll have many different styles of questions here, but this is just the first one on my list. Examples include, should this particular evidence or whatever you may want to say get us to this amount of confidence? Let's say someone believes that a necklace brings them good luck. they believe this because of personal experience. The question can be phrased like this: should personal experience give us 99% confidence that your necklace is lucky? More Socratic questions include: why is it a good reason to believe the necklace is lucky? Would the same reasoning work with different claims? Can our feelings or personal experience be deceptive? Can someone believe or have faith, if it's kind of a question like that, in something that is not true? How can we determine if two separate events are related in any way? How can we test this? How could we test to see if the necklace is lucky? And I just listed all these questions. Okay. Don't do that. Don't ask them all these questions. Don't rapid fire them. Ask a question, let them respond, and listen. Listen to that question. Listen to what they have to say. Okay. I just want to make sure that's clear because I like to give these examples, but don't rapid fire them. Because like if you were on the other end of that rapid fire, imagine how you'd feel. You'd be like, slow down. Next way is searching for alternative explanations. It's another way to examine the reliability of the method used. Encouraging your conversation partner to explore alternative explanations or interpretations of their evidence or experiences. Examples include: aside from your necklace being lucky, what alternative examples can you think of to explain your good fortune? Right? Get them to think outside the box. What else could it be? Is there a way to know which alternative explanation is most likely to be true? Is it the one that the conclusion you came to? Is it possibly another? Why is that the case? If there were other explanations that you are currently aware of, what do you want to know about it? Would you want to know if there's something else that could have happened that you're not aware of? Asking about falsifiability is another way to examine the reliability of a method. Discuss the concept of falsifiability. Ask your conversation partner to consider what evidence or circumstances could potentially change your belief. This can help them reflect on the limitations of the reasons and methods, as well as conditions which they may revise their belief. Examples include: how could we test whether the necklace is really lucky? What kind of test could we do? Is there a possibility that you are mistaken about it being lucky? Could someone be mistaken about this? What new evidence would shift your confidence about the necklace being lucky? I was on the wrong slide the whole time, wasn't I? Not bad about that. All right. Outsider test. This is kind of my personal favorite. It's a way to test the reliability of the reasons and methods from a neutral perspective. This test involves imagining that the belief in question belongs to someone else from a different background or belief system. So it's a different conclusion, but it's the same method. So the example is, let's say Sophia has a belief that her necklace is lucky. Her reason for this belief is that she feels it's true in her heart. The outsider test could be conducted like so. I think I understand you, Sophia. The reason you believe the necklace is lucky is because you feel the luck in your heart. You've got the necklace. You are lucky. You can feel that it's lucky. If I were to bring a buddy of mine named Jeff, and he said in his heart, he actually got a bad vibe. He felt like the necklace, was kind of bringing bad luck, actually. I'm talking to you guys. How could I figure out whether, Sophia, your conclusion is correct or Jeff's conclusion is correct? That's the outsider test. These confirmation questions. Ask your interlocutor what could reduce your confidence in their claim. You can also ask what could increase their confidence in the claim. Yeah, I like to ask both if I'm going to ask it. If I'm going to ask one, I like to ask both. Examples include: what could you learn that could make you less confident the necklace is lucky? What could you learn or discover? that could get you from 99% down to like 50%. You can talk about further, ask what would decrease their confidence. Just say, well, if I learned that, actually, I don't have a good example for that, but if nothing could reduce their confidence, you'll often get, well, nothing could change my mind. Obviously, I'm here. I know it's true. Ask why that's the case. Really talk about if nothing could reduce your confidence, if nothing you could learn or discover, why be so confident, right? And this is kind of what I was saying before. I kind of got ahead of myself. Is all of this really necessary? Yeah, it's best to start with the method, whichever way of examining this belief. Just go with that one first. You don't have to go through this whole list. If you do that, you'll be talking to this person for like 10 hours. Don't do that. Okay. So you want to choose one that you think they're gonna resonate with, maybe. One that you think will be effective. I can't exactly tell you exactly which one. Different people are going to resonate with different questions. But you can get out there, try one of those, try multiple. If you maybe start off with some Socratic questions, maybe try an outsider test, see how they respond to that. Did that go backwards?
Wait, well, I know. I think you're repeating what you said before, though.
Yeah, I think so. No, it's okay. All right, feedback and reflection next step. Near the end of the conversation, ask your interlocutor if the conversation changed their confidence regarding the claim. That's a really good way to know where they're at and whether you had I guess maybe we shouldn't measure it like that. Whether or not you change someone's mind, you might have that goal. You might be an activist, right? I would challenge you not to be an activist, actually. I would challenge you to have these conversations because you genuinely care about these people, about who you're talking to, your conversation partner, and because you want them to critically reflect, not because you necessarily want them to change their mind. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I have these conversations, I am motivated to change it. But I would like to change that mindset and mostly just talk to people and have the motivation to have them go through the thought process. But I think it's really important that we think about how we came to certain beliefs, and if we could be mistaken about the beliefs, and how we would know if we were mistaken. I think that's really important to me, and I think that's important for everyone. So I challenge you, if you do have these conversations, to try to go in with that mindset. And concluding it, I don't know what's up with this remote. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Anyway, concluding the conversation, ending the dialogue in a respectful, positive, and encouraging manner can leave a lasting impression on your conversation partner and pave the way for future conversations. Something that I've seen a few people in the SE community do is they had this great conversation, and then at the end, it went a little downhill. They may have started a little bit preaching, like saying, "Oh, this is why I believe in this, why I believe it, and blah 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 blah, and you should believe this." Maybe not that far, but I would challenge you to not take it that far. Say, "Hey, is there any questions you'd like to ask me? If you'd like to learn about my belief, I'd be happy to ask any questions, maybe similar questions that I asked you." And like they can be a back and forth. Express appreciation. Thank them for the conversation, and thank them for their openness and willing to engage in a thought-provoking conversation. That can foster goodwill and leave a really positive impact, making them more likely to engage not only with you, but possibly others in the future. Offer an open invitation to come back and talk to you again or explore related topics next time, maybe. It just demonstrates interest and helps them hopefully open and to talk to you and others again. So a quick list of what not to do. So everything I'm going to be saying here is what you shouldn't do. It's not advice. It's the opposite of advice. Being confrontational or argumentative. Street epistemology is meant to be friendly, non-confrontational approach to discussing beliefs. Avoid trying to win. I'm not out here trying to win. If you're doing street epistemology, you're not trying to win. There are no winners. There are no losers with street epistemology. It's about exploration. It's about reflection. It's about understanding. Presenting evidence. That's not something to do. That'd be a debate at that point. Asking leading questions. To maintain a neutral stance, avoid questions that presuppose a specific answer or direction. Instead, aim for open-minded questions that encourage reflection. Avoid misunderstandings. Misunderstandings can arise from unclear definitions or terminology. Make sure you guys are both on the same page. Focusing on facts instead of methodology. Don't focus on facts. Street epistemology emphasizes examining the methods. So you want to go through their thought process of how they arrived at this, not necessarily what facts they believe are true. Being overly persistent or pushy, respect the other person's boundaries. If they don't want to have the conversation, don't have the conversation. A lack of patience. You do have to be patient. Don't expect immediate progress, epiphanies. The goal is to facilitate reflection, which it can take time. And they may not reflect while you're talking to them. It might be the moment they walk home or drive home or whatever. They might be thinking about it all night. Who knows? Or maybe they don't think about it again, but often they don't always have that immediate reflection. A really common misconception is that SE, street epistemology, is proselytizing, which many people define as telling people what to think. With SE, you don't tell people what to think. Okay. There can be negative outcomes. If your conversation partner, there can be negative outcomes for your conversation partner while using SE. People who belong to, for example, religious groups that don't socialize with outsiders. They're the most susceptible to negative consequences. If someone loses confidence in their religious claim, they can become an outsider to this religious group. This is an emotional, taxing, and difficult situation to go through. It is best to be mindful of your conversation partner. Check in with them if you suspect, they're not doing well with the conversation. One question that can be asked is, if you were no longer confident in your claim, would you be okay? I use this question to see if I should proceed. If they say no, I'm probably not proceeding. I mean, almost absolutely not proceeding. Because I want people to be okay. If they're honestly not going to be okay, this isn't a conversation I want to have. In conclusion, SE is a powerful conversation tool that encourages reflection and critical thinking. As we discussed, it's important to approach these conversations with empathy, active listening, and patience. The goal is not to win an argument, but to facilitate deeper understanding of what we believe and how we got there. So with that being said, that pretty much concludes my part. Has anyone been thinking of any questions as I've been presenting here?
Yes, I've been thinking about the contrast between street epistemology and the way that Ray Comfort. Have you ever seen Ray Comfort do his street evangelism?
Oh, probably. I don't specifically.
So basically, he pretty much leads every single question, and he will say, "Are you a sinner? Have you lied?" And then he basically says, "Well, if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to hell."
Yes.
And that's how he ends it. Every single one.
Okay, so kind of
I like the contrast is kind of fun.
Yeah. There actually are a few people in the SE community who are religious, and I love him, man. It's just so great. I don't know if this guy wants me to say his full name, so I won't. But there's like a fellow named Matthew, and I love the guy to death. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, with this method, you don't. It's not about winning. It's not about leading them down this path. I mean, maybe it could, I guess. Is that going to be particularly convincing? I don't think so. I mean, I think if you examine the epistemology, it's a much better road, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've chatted about this, but I'm hoping would you offer what's been what you consider being most rewarding to the song conversation? What was the topic? What was the outcome?
Oh, yeah. I was talking with this fellow, I think his name was Jacob. He didn't have a specific religion. I mean, sort of, he did mention, but it was just more of a general higher power belief. And he really hadn't considered any of these things. I went over the outsider test with him. I think I used my special outsider test. I'll share that with you guys because I think that might be valuable. And so it goes kind of along like this. I got this good friend. His name's Alan. Great guy. He just landed a spaceship outside the window out there. So he's never been to Earth. He doesn't know anything about human beliefs, human culture, nothing, right? And if he were to come in and talk to you about this belief,
You know, what would be the best way for him to figure out what's true? He really wants to know what's true. How does he figure that out? You can also do it. They might tell you a reason, and it might match theirs. It might not. If it doesn't match theirs, you may want to ask, why the disconnect? Right. And traditionally, you can say, well, if Alan comes in and talking with someone else who believes something else, and they use the same reasoning, how's Alan going to figure out who's right, who's wrong, if anyone's right? Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, so I'll ask a follow-up. But so how did you know that the conversation was successful? Again, what was Jacob's take by the end? How did things wrap up?
I think he said his mind was blown. He wasn't in an emotional state where he was saddened or anything. He was happy. He was happy, but he was like, wow, Pierce, these are things that I never really thought about. You know, it was just like, I'm just out here believing that belief. And I never really considered these things. And it was just like, wow, Jacob, thanks for talking to me. That's kind of my measure of success. Someone says, hey, I thought about this belief. I considered it. You've got my wheels turning. And as long as it stays respectful and empathetic, that's a win for me. That's how I think. I think our hand was up next to me too.
So would you say then that reaching, even if you reach an I don't know or I'm not sure, that would be a positive outcome?
Yeah, I love it when people say I don't know, because that means they have more to learn. That means they're willing to learn more. I think most of the time I would say that, because if they just say, well, I'm still confident, maybe they have good reasons. Maybe they know that they have good reasons. That's a possibility. But if someone says I don't know, that's fantastic. I love it.
In examining the belief line, some ways are an assumption now. If people use this assumption whenever they walk in a room, they make persuasion of they use this assumption though and make inferences from that assumption, like okay, so and so is ABC from the assumption though. And if you use epistemology to help that person know, like so and so, you're using an assumption though, you assume that to be true though. And all your inferences are based off that assumption though. How do you know, this is something you assume to be true from the very beginning though? How would you tell people like that belief is an assumption though? How would you do that though? That all your inferences came from that assumption.
Right. You don't want to tell people that, hey, that's an assumption. You're wrong. That will cause defensiveness. It's very unlikely that that's going to be an approach that will get them to reflect. What you can do is, I think that might be a perfect example where you can use the Alan the alien outsider test, right? Because Alan comes in, he doesn't have any assumptions. He just got here. He doesn't know anything. So how does Alan go about figuring this out? And that can be something that will get them to reflect and they'll be like, maybe I am just making this up. they might consider that.
Okay.
It's a way to get them to reflect on that. And yes.
I've been following street epistemology off and on for a couple of years now, and the impression that I get from it is it's an effort to get people to reflect, and from that they can develop the capacity to question their beliefs and develop stronger critical thinking skills. And that is, of course, super helpful. At the same time, I think a lot of us would agree that information, it is helpful to give people information, because it's one thing to be able to question the information you've received and deconstruct. But if there's no accurate information coming in, it seems like it could only go so far. And so I wonder if, with your experience volunteering for street epistemology, have you developed the position that, like, providing people with information in general is not helpful, or that's just outside of the scope of street epistemology?
It's outside the scope for sure. Yeah. Whether or not it's helpful, I think if someone has this existing belief, like let's say someone believes that vaccines are harmful, let's say. If you present evidence, if you say, hey, there was a study, CDC says this, blah, 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 if you present them with this evidence, they already have this other evidence. It's butting heads. They're probably not going to change their belief because they already have this, and they may have developed an identity, or there might be other psychological factors. They might have a need to be that. They might have a community. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, but they're more likely to stick with their original evidence. But if you're able to talk to the reliability one, to talk to about how they arrived at that, whether their methodology is good, right? You can, if their confidence goes down, then I think they're more willing to look into it further, to explore it further. Potentially, you could present evidence there. I would wait, and this is more of my opinion, kind of the street epistemology conversation. Okay, it's done. Moving on to just talking to another conversation. I personally would wait for them to ask me for evidence or ask me what I think. If then, yeah, tell them. Absolutely. Provide them with whatever they want. But I personally would wait if you would want to tell them after this SE is done. That's kind of your own thing, but that's my thoughts.
And as a follow-up to that, I couldn't agree more. That beginning with, here is why I am convinced of this, that is a debate, and it's not helpful, right? And everything we do the goal should be, I want to help make the world a better place. It ultimately comes to that, right? And you got to deconstruct, but it seems like at some point when we're talking about just in general making the world better, at some point we want to educate people. Sure. But we don't want to start with that. And it's also outside of the scope of street epistemology to educate. That's someone else's, it's a good thing to do, but it's someone else's job to do that.
Yeah, it could be.
And so with that, how helpful do you think it would be to phrase a question like, once you get maybe a little bit more into the conversation, how helpful do you think it would be to phrase a question like, there are some people who disagree with the stance you have taken, and their reasoning for that is this, like these stats, what do you think about that, or how does that impact your belief?
I think chances are your conversation partner already knows about that. I would ask them, if there was somebody who disagreed with you, how do you think they came to their conclusion? What do you think they used to get there? Have them say it, and then you can inspect it further, talk to them more about it after that. All right, that's what I would do. Good.
Yeah, would you say that street epistemology is better to get the person to question themselves and eventually kind of arrive, maybe changing their mind on their own, rather than, because no one's going to change their mind in one conversation. So it's more about getting to question themselves and then maybe eventually
reaching at a different belief. Or it's not about like actively trying to change their mind, but just get them to question themselves and then maybe like down the road,
Yeah, I think it's a starting point.
starting point.
Yeah, you don't have to get through everything in a single conversation.
Right.
Yeah, you can have multiple conversations. You can have a single conversation and maybe think about it over the next few weeks, months, years, whatever. And yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll chime in with, in my experience, the role is not to change their mind, but to give them the tools to have them change their own mind.
Right, that's
So,
what I meant.
over time.
Yeah.
And that's why the item note is so important, because we live in a culture where certainty is so prized. It's so easy to be certain. It feels good to be certain, and to get some very critical thinking skills to better calibrate why they are so certain on a particular topic. And maybe they're out over their speak up to. Maybe they're overly confident. They come to realize, well, I don't really have good reasons for that. That's the whole point of triggering this problem, is to unpack those beliefs and better calibrate their confidence level with the actual evidence they must have muster.
Well said, man. I know I'm over time, but I've also keep talking. If you guys want to stay, you're welcome to stay for a little bit. I know there's one more question back there, at least.
I mean, I guess it's kind of follow up to my previous question. And then if, I don't know, as a good way, it's a good place to maybe end up a conversation with, how do you go about handling when someone says, that's just the way it is. That just happens. And just like asserts something as the fact of the matter rather than as something that they have constructed an opinion on.
Can you? Interesting. Very interesting. I guess what I would do is I would ask them about the possibility of someone who believes the opposite, so came to a different conclusion, preferably an opposite conclusion. And if someone were to say, well, that's just the way it is, then they believe the opposite. Who should I believe? Should I believe you? Should I believe them? How can I figure this out? Is there a test I could conduct and figure out? You let me figure this out. And you use collaborative language, so and use me, say, hey, let's figure this out together. Right? Okay. Looks like there's no more questions. Beautiful. So I'm over time. I'll let you guys go. Yeah, thank you.